Welcome to the Be You Brand podcast. I am your host, Ati Greenspan, and if you're looking to build $1 million personal brand, sell out your services, and do it all while living your best life and fulfilling your purpose, you've come to the right place. Welcome aboard, my friend. I am so freaking excited for my guest today because literally she's like me in another body. But this is the thing for all the girlies out there that sometimes you worry about competition or you worry about like other women doing something similar or something like you. I'm going to tell you, you're going to learn so freaking much on this episode because when we found each other, I look at her Instagram and I was like, am I looking at my Instagram? Her colors, her energy looks so much alike to my branding. And I feel like we are branding besties and we are both doing amazing things in the world. But I am actually going to let her introduce herself. Demi, go for the world.
Hello, I'm so excited to be here. It's exactly what you said. Like, I was just telling her that before this episode, I was talking to my husband. He's like, "Oh, Ati, you in Vegas?" I'm like, "Yes, exactly. That's exactly what this is." So, this is going to be a perfect episode because this goes so hand in hand with literally down to the branding colors of doing verbatim, but also being branding besties. So, my name's Demiree. I live in Michigan, in Metro Detroit, and I am the founder of Michigan's largest empowerment conference called empowHER. And we've been doing this for a little over, this will be our fourth year doing an event. And it all quickly stemmed from, I had a women's clothing boutique here in Michigan, and I ran that for about 6 years. And then when I started realizing, like, I'm burnt out. I love selling clothing and I love selling in general, but I found that for me specifically, the feeling that I loved most about my business was the feeling that I was giving women in my store of like, I was more interested in, okay, we went to the wedding, we saw the ex-boyfriend. How did they like your outfit? Like, I was more involved in that. Like, I don't even care if you bought an outfit from me. I just want to know what the tea was. So I started to take a step back and realize, like, how can I make a business for myself? Like, because obviously we'd all love to do our passion projects for free, but those don't pay the bills. So how can we do what we love to do, but make money off of it? So I took a step back from my boutique and closed that. And what I realized was that I no longer had a physical space to host women events, right? I was having Galentine's and Ghouls Night Out during Halloween.
Oh, so you were already hosting events before you ever hosted your conference.
Oh yeah, but like more in like a smaller scale inside my store. So like pop-up events, like we'd have some champagne and it would be like an exclusive sale. So nothing to the extremity of what I'm doing with empowHER. But when I closed my physical storefront, I was like, wait a minute. Like, where do I host stuff now? Like, how do I have? So I started this little like girls' night out essential. And I had girls like reaching out to me to buy tickets, and they're like, well, do you have speakers? And I was like,
okay, don't go so fast. Don't go so fast because I have.
Yes, I want to like share all the wealth of the knowledge.
So I was actually gonna ask you how did you get started, but I kind of want to give a little bit of preface to this because I think not only my own brand, but I think that the world of online business is changing. And so many of the coaches that you see today online on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, we started during the pandemic. So online was everything, right? Like create content, live online, go live 1,000,000 times a week, all of this. But all of us that we started events after the pandemic, we are finding that there is a different way to do business. And that's kind of where I kind of want you to go back to what you were saying. Like, I love selling, but what I love most was that feeling. So what was that connection? So now you can actually spill the tea. What was that connection that you were seeing? Like, oh my God, at these events, selling is also like effortless.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong, I loved selling clothing. I love fun, bright clothing, in the area that I was in didn't have that. So I was like, I'm going to make something that has that. But then after a while, I realized, like, okay, I like selling clothing, but I love selling experiences and feelings to people. And like, how can I do that? Like, I can't just open a store and be like, buy feelings here, you know? I going through that, like after the pandemic hit, like because we were open through 2020, obviously like shut down, but like we were trying to do more online, and then we opened our storefront back in 2021. And then in 2022, I closed the storefront because I was just like, I think the pandemic helped me realize, like, obviously it took a huge blow to my business because I was a physical product based business that like had a storefront, and we had an online, which saved my ass because if I didn't have an online, like, how are people purchasing? But then when like the pandemic hits and people at least concern is buying clothing,
I was gonna say that that was a big thing for stores because people were not even like, people were actually like saying, "Oh, I'm in my pajamas all day." That was like the big thing, right?
like, okay, what am I going to buy this new outfit for to go to the restaurants that aren't going to be open? Or I can't even realistically go see my friends. Or so it took a huge blow to us. But like, I look at the bright side of things. Like, I'm not happy that it happened, right? Like, it sucks that the pandemic happened, but it did help me open my eyes of like realizing I don't want to do this for another 20 years. Like, it helped me slow down and realize, like, whoa, it's actually not the clothes that I want to sell. It's the experience and these feelings that I was telling you about. So when we closed the boutique, I was like, how can I make this happen still? Like, what can I do? I don't want to just reopen a Rubu pop-up because then that kind of defeats the whole purpose of me having my business, right? Especially like the place we had the event at was like 2 blocks down the road. So it's like, we're closed. Just kidding. We're open for a pop-up. Like,
Yeah.
so I had girls reaching out to me to be vendors and like random women being like, so are there speakers? And I was like, yeah.
Huh.
I'm like
Yes.
immediately calling everybody that I knew, and it sold out within like 2 weeks. And girls at the event were like, so when's the next one? And I'm like, what? Like, I don't know. And
Mhm.
so it kind of just grew from that of like, okay, well, next year we'll be prepared with sponsors and speakers and better food and more of an experience, maybe a bigger location. And it just has stemmed from being in a small town called Port Huron, Michigan here to now having Detroit reach out to us to ask to come to Detroit because we hold the title of the state's largest women empowerment conference. So
That's amazing.
yeah, it's been a really fun experience, but stepping back from something that no longer served me in order to do something that I actually love and then getting paid for it, like
Yeah.
that's a dream come true, right?
Well, the
So
permission to pivot, right? The permission to pivot, the permission to let go of something and do something different, even though you didn't know what that was actually about.
it's one of the biggest reasons why girls don't leave corporate America or
Yeah.
are afraid to close a business and start a new chapter. We're afraid that it's going to fail. There's millions of things that I could list of reasons why people don't want to pivot. It's
So let me ask you this because it seemed like the transition, the way you tell the story was so serendipitous and it was so smooth. But I'm sure there were challenges in not only the pivot, but like you creating these events and actually creating the big event. Because by the way, for our listeners, our story is so similar because I started hosting events right when we opened after the pandemic with a friend here in town. They were called Power Tribe. Like all first photos and everything, we are still all with masks, which is so crazy. But people were so desperate. And that is what made me realize, oh my God, I want to host a conference someday. But what were some of the challenges that you encounter? Because I mean, when we are hosting events for like 20 or 30 people, that is one thing. But when you are hosting a conference, 2 days, you're getting a venue, oh gosh, that is a completely different animal. So can you share with me what were some of those challenges?
yeah, I feel like the number one challenge that I had was obviously a financial cut. Like I had a 6-figure business with a boutique and then being like, I want to close this and do something that I don't know if it's going to even make $1. And
Yeah.
with any startup, you don't make $1. Like you don't go from having a 6-figure business to starting a completely new thing and being like, that's also going to be a 6-figure business. So that was extremely difficult to kind of grasp because that's another reason why people don't want to pivot when something's comfortable. It's making money. Why change it? Or especially if you're starting over for something that's not going to be overnight 6-figure business as well, or even close to that. Like that's also scary. So that was pretty challenging of changing my lifestyle, I guess, to make things.
Ooh, what a good point.
Because it's true. Like you can't, if you're making X amount and then you transition to this, like you don't get to have or do the things that you're normally doing with this other lifestyle, right? Like you're not making
Mm.
more.
Thank you for being so honest
It's true.
because I mean, I went through it when I left my 6-figure job. to start my business, we actually had to cut. We sat down with my husband, and anything that was a kind of like a luxury, even at the time we were going to like a certain level gym,
Yeah.
and we downgraded down to like a $20 a month gym. We were paying like 300 and we went to like $20 a month.
Yeah, it's an uncomfortable conversation you have to have with yourself, and nobody wants to, have a blow to their ego, even if it's something that no one knows about. But it's a little disappointing to be like, okay, I travel 2 times a month to I travel 1 time a year. So
Yeah.
that was a little bit of a challenge. And then with the financial cut, which was like probably my biggest setback, was I kind of had to learn, which I've always been this way, but like becoming really savvy and cost efficient with my resources and time of, I'm not getting the luxury branding things. Instead, I'm figuring out how to do it on Canva and I'm printing it at Staples. To save thousands of dollars of having a graphic designer do it for me. And that's great and all, but like I had to unfortunately do like the garage sale route of
Yeah. I
shopping.
love this conversation. So actually, because you went from hosting these events at your store, so when you decided that you were going to host a conference, and actually, I'm actually really curious about this myself, and I'm sure the reason why I started with this question is after my event, so many women told me I want to host my own event.
Yes.
And my biggest thing to them was start small, start with even a coffee meetup in your town, start being known as the girl that brings people together, right? But how did you do that jump? Because you had to get a venue, and now all of a sudden you were the girl that was known as a boutique owner and you started something completely new. So obviously, as the branding geek that I am, and when I say branding, I'm not talking about logos. I'm like, you had to rebrand yourself and go out there and build a community. So how did you do that?
So luckily, I feel like I had somewhat of a community based off of my boutique for the last 6 years of having a business. And I really pride myself on having a boutique that was all about body confidence. Cause like I'm not a size 1, I am curvier, I have a chest. Like I'm not afraid to be that person that's like, wear what you want to wear. So I luckily did have a community of women who were really like diehards for my store based off of how I talk positive about my body and like my relationship and all the different things. So I started with somewhat of a community that was ready to back me, hence why I made this Girls Day Out, because so many people are like, I miss Dem's events and it's not the same and nowhere around here is doing that. But it didn't just like, I didn't close Rubu, my clothing store, and then just like wake up and be like, I'm gonna have Michigan's largest empowerment conference. Like that's not how. I just was like, I need a space that's gonna hold probably 100 people. I can get 100 people in a room, whether those are my literal friends, family.
But also 100 people is a lot of people.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I felt so confidently that I could get 100 people in a room. I can get 100 people that are friends and family, maybe a couple of their friends and family. Let's just hope for the best. And it did. And so fortunately enough, like 100 people, like you said, that's 100 people. 20 people is a lot of people.
Yeah.
Imagine opening your front door and there's 20 people in your front yard. That's a lot of fucking people. It's word of mouth, giving them a good experience to where they're wanting to share this, and then they're reposting it and talking about it and they're coming back, and then their friends are seeing it and they had such a good experience that they're coming back. So my community built its own community based off of me tooting my own horn, like being a solid base of really knowing who I was and what I wanted and wanting that for other people, and women feeling the exact same way.
Being you.
Yeah, exactly. Being exactly who you are. And I'm sure you've gotten this, like, I'm not going to be everybody's cup of tea.
I know that.
I'm sure people are like, she's so obnoxious and she's wearing a green sweater with pink glasses. And why isn't she why? Like, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. And that's okay. It took me a long time to not want to not only people please, but then I realized like I was working on overtime trying to make people who didn't like me, or
Yes.
to my events and me proving myself, when all I needed to do was be like, that's okay. I'm not your cup of tea. I'd rather focus
Well,
on
I
people who
mean,
do.
that's what my brand all stands about. But I think also that's when you start attracting, when you also start repelling.
Yeah.
Because you repel the people that are not for you, that they're not into the same things that you are, that they are not, right? So we start attracting when people are like, yes, girl, yes.
Yep, exactly. And it's a beautiful thing. So to be able to
Yeah.
do a conference off of, something that was just supposed to be like a girl's day out from me missing my boutique and being nostalgic, it's like insane. And also it's like sad and beautiful in the same way of like how many women crave connection.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like a beautiful thing that's like, oh my God, I'm so happy that we can come together. But in a way, like, how sad that we need to have an event because we don't have it in our everyday lives.
You know what? I spent about 10, 15 minutes putting the questions together, but I am actually something, it was kind of like a download that I think that it's perfect for us because, we said, oh my God, we look at each other's branding and we were like, who's this chick? Right. And immediately we're like, we have to connect and all the things. One of the things that I hear from women from my event, even in my community, is I never had girlfriends.
Mhm.
And I finally feel like I have a sisterhood. I never trusted women. By the way, that was me. That was
Yeah.
me. I grew up having mostly guy friends, not boyfriends, but like guy friends. Still till this day, they're still friends of mine. They're back in Argentina. And I had one or two girlfriends that were really close to me, and that's it.
Yeah. It's sad.
So what do you think that you are doing different and is the secret sauce to women actually collaborating and wanting to be in community and all of that?
I think letting women know that like it's okay to be exactly who you are. I know that sounds so cliche and so fluffy, but it's like I'm just being who I am. And if I can do that, you can do that. And I'm making the connections with people and I can tell immediately when someone's like not being who they are. I think it's an energy that a lot of people are learning to read and I think we're giving permission to women just to be like it's okay to be different. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to not agree with something but not argue about it. Like I hate kale. My best friend loves kale.
Yeah.
To sit here and argue with her that it's gross when she loves it, right? It's the same mentality of like, it's okay to be exactly who you are and connecting with women off that. Because like, I think I'm a pretty badass person, but I can only imagine how boring of a room it would be if it were literally a copy and paste me.
Yeah.
This is great energy. Like we're all over the place. We're bouncing off the walls. But in a way, it's just like, I always relate it back to food, but it's like sitting in a food court and it being like, do you want pizza, 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 pizza,
Yeah.
or pizza?
Well, I think the growth behind what we're just talking about, and I just experienced it also this past weekend. We had a retreat here in Vegas. But one of the things for me is when I stop trying to defend anything that I stand for and I just let it be. And I
Yeah.
just let it be and realize, this is what I think about something. It doesn't take anything away from somebody else. And it doesn't take away from me that somebody else thinks different.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think a lot of women are afraid to have that opinion because like I think like society's history and everything like how girls are raised like we're raised as women like we can't talk highly of ourselves. We can't like how
Oh,
we look.
don't brag.
Yeah, you
That's
can't
not nice. Bragging, like if you're saying something, if you're celebrating a win, you're bragging.
yeah, like oh she thinks she's better than everyone else. It's like no, I'm just excited about something that I worked
Yeah.
my ass off on.
Yeah. I get to celebrate me and I get to celebrate everybody else around me too. I love
Yeah.
that.
Sorry that
So,
you
okay. So now we talked about the challenges. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable. I think that there is such a lifestyle hype right now of like what it means to make six figures or like the lifestyle that comes with like a multiple six-figure business or whatever, that we forget that it's okay to choose not to have that lifestyle if we want to change for a while or whatever the decision is, right? And that doesn't make us less successful,
yeah.
right?
100%.
Because success looks different for everybody.
Oh,
But now I'm gonna throw you like the other side. Like, what was like one decision that maybe you made on your way to creating this event for 4 years, super successful? You had what, 300 women last year?
yeah, 380 was our last year.
That's that. Okay, like wanna be right here forever. Right, we had 100 women the last 2 years. I'm like, okay, if you can do it, I can too, right? But the question is, what was like a decision for you that were okay, I can trace all of the success back to that one decision?
That's a good question. I would say there's so many. Like, I don't know if I can pick one, but one big thing that I think has made the event successful is being okay with not allowing everybody to be a part of everything. Like, I want to collaborate with everybody because we think, like, oh, if I have more people a part of this, more people are going to know about it and more people are going to be hearing about it or they're going to be more involved. I did that the second year. The second year I did that, I just let any vendor come in. Anyone who was interested, I was like, any vendor I can get in this door, amazing, because I want to pack this full. I don't want people getting here and it really bit me in my ass because I had vendors that really didn't stand for what I stood for. And obviously we look at vendors as it's money. Like it's people paying to be a part of my event, and it's an extra paycheck and it's more money to go into the decoration. So it's great, but it's like it realistically hurts you in the long run, because when I did a review after all the conferences with like, what can we do better? Because I want to be honest, and they're always anonymous so that no one feels uncomfortable about being honest. I had a lot of women pick out like these several vendors, and I was like, damn, it was because I just like really was like, okay, anyone, you're a women-owned
Yeah.
business too. I
I
wasn't
can
like,
I can relate to that. I
yeah.
can relate to that.
And I think like I had to make the decision to like obviously have applications, and now we have applications for vendors and applications for speakers, because not everybody is going to be the vibe or really stand for what we stand. A perfect example of this, something that just happened to us recently, is we had Target as a sponsor and a partner of ours for our event, which I was so excited about. And for those of you who aren't aware, with the whole DEI initiative that they have, where it's pretty much helping more minority owned businesses have products in their stores, they rolled that back, which was a really big disappointment to hear, especially because as empowHER, like I'm all about inclusivity and diversity and not making people feel like they don't have an opportunity, right? So to say that we had them as a partner, I couldn't be proud about that. So instead of being like, you know what, it's Target, fuck it, like I don't really care, like I could sit here and be like, now we have Target, it didn't feel great for me. And I would have rather lost and told them, unfortunately, we have to pull you as a partner because it doesn't feel right for me. And that was a really hard conversation to have. I would have rather had the integrity of my event stand in fact versus being like Target's a partner of it and not feeling too great about that. So that's a bigger scale of this example, but like the smaller scales is just letting people walk over.
That is crazy though. What you just told me is crazy. Like you say no to Target. That's crazy.
Yeah, we called them Monday and had a conversation and pretty much asked them like, can you please explain this to us? They couldn't. And I was like, I hope you know where I'm
Well,
coming
because you were partner at the local level.
Yeah, they had their Michigan locations coming to it, so statewide.
Yeah. But what I'm saying, like this is coming from like big,
Yeah, it wasn't
yeah,
their fault. Like they're not like, oh, because we just don't want to. They were like,
yeah.
we completely understand. So that's a perfect example of like, I think that was a big decision that I noticed, that I can deliberately be like, I'm actually the one planning this event. I'm
Yeah.
allowed to make the decisions, and this event is a reflection of who I am. Even though I love collaborating with everyone, and my goal is to bring women
I'm
together.
gonna say
But
for
yeah,
us, what happened, because our speakers, they're kind of handpicked. I kind of go in there with the idea of like, what do I want this year to be about? And first I look into my network. I look at the people that we share values, we share vision, right? And I'm like, okay, who are the people from my network that I want to pull for the event first?
yeah,
And that was actually a big thing for us, because people that reach out to me, that they're like, hey, I want to be, even us, right? You were like, hey, you need to submit an application like everybody else to speak at the event. And I feel like for some people that were like, I think they're great, but there may not be for this year. The topic doesn't, or I'm like, hey, you would be a great fit, but tell me about what you want to bring into the event.
yeah.
And maybe there was no synergy, right, to what I want to create. And I feel like people take those things personal. They forget that the success of the event, it's in the vision.
Yeah. Like I want to have everyone a part of it. We had 240 applications for speakers this year, and obviously it's not the best feeling as somebody who wants to bring all women together, and also seeing those women who are doing this for the first time, like you can really tell that this took a lot for them to like put themselves out there. And so I fortunately enough have a team of girls. I have 10 girls that I pick every single year that work with me, and we all choose our speakers, because also I know that I just said like this is my event and this is a reflection of who I am, but like my opinion and my outlook isn't always the only one everyone wants to hear about. Like I've had women that are like, I'd love to hear about child loss. And I'm like, how is that empowering though? And they're like, because how do you bounce back from that? Like we have all kinds of different perspectives. So it does suck when you
And your conference is not just business oriented.
No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so we really tried to make it, obviously there are a lot of business owners, because business owners are motivated more and want to meet more people, because that's what makes them money, and meeting a network of people. But we do have women who are stay-at-home moms, or girls that are in college figuring their life out, or corporate girls that want a side gig or don't want a side gig. They just want a fun day out to like let loose and, you know, get away from their boyfriends. So it's just
something that we did last year, because I am a business conference, something that we did is like I created kind of like a council with other women women, and we had all these categories, and we had the women that apply because we do like applications for newbies, because I want to give a space to new speakers to start getting on stage. And we had 4 women that like presentation, the topic, this, that, and I was there, but basically they chose.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I will put the guidelines of what I'm looking for from the speakers, and they can choose.
Yep.
So that way it wasn't like tinted with like, if a lot of these women I loved and they're my friends and like, right, or clients. And I was like, okay, this ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
Like I can't separate myself from this.
Yeah, that was a whole other thing of like you said, like I even had everyone listening. I had Ati, she's amazing. Anyone who knows her, like it's a no-brainer. Of course she's going to speak at our conference, but like I was like, I need you to put an application in just like anyone else, and that's why I have my team do it so that it's not biased, and I'm not like, okay, yeah, she's a first, you know what I mean? Like I'm
going to tell you, when people reach out to me and they're like, hey, I want to speak at your event, I'm kind of put off, because when I reach out to somebody, or either I ask, hey, are you looking for speakers? Or I reach out with like, hey, I have an idea for your audience.
Yeah.
How can I serve your audience? And I think that people forget that. I'm going to tell you that for the podcast, that's for the moment people see you being successful, everybody wants a part of it. And they forget that you're spending thousands and thousands of dollars to put this event together. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Okay. So best decision was to actually be ruthless about who is part of your event, so they represent you the right way. Is that like...
That's 100% it, because like at the end of the day, even though my entire business model, as is yours, is collaboration, like I truly believe that collaboration is key.
Yeah.
It's cliche to say, but like my event would not be successful without the people that are included, the women that are vendors that pop up, the speakers that come to this. This isn't Demeree's on a stage for 6 hours and we're here because of Demiree. I know that a lot of people are there because they love what I'm about, and that's what I'm more excited about. Not because like they just want to see me, but because what I can create with other women and show women that their potential. But yeah, being ruthless is a perfect word. Like I used to be really uncomfortable telling people no with the speakers or vendors, or if I had someone, like we had like 10 candle companies this year, I don't let more than
you can't have, and that's something that people don't understand. Like, you can't have 10 candle companies, you can have one, and that one needs to align with you.
Oh, 100%. And you have to think about it as the other opposite end of what I was saying, of like, that was the best decision of being ruthless about who I'm letting in and whatnot, because I could have 10 candle companies come in, and that's money. That's great. Like they pay, let's say $1,000. That's 10 grand. Cool, beautiful. Well, guess what? Now, when people come to my event and they see 10 candle companies and they're only really like kind of supporting, like they're only getting like 2 or 3 sales each. Now they all 10 are not coming back next year.
Exactly.
It was a waste of their time versus having 2 and really narrowing and putting them in deliberately opposite spots. So it's, and they're also representing who I am and what I stand for. And now they have 100 sales and they're like, please sign me up next year.
Which brings me to the next question.
Okay.
So I want to talk about the investment of actually going to an event, because, and these kind of like, the reason why I said it brings me to the next question is the value of actually being a vendor, the value of sponsoring, even as a small business owner, but also the value of how do you, because I hate convincing people. So I always lead with the value and the fun and what they're going to get out of it and the experience that other people had. But the truth is, like, to build these events, we need to charge for people to be part of it.
Yeah.
So what are some of the things that you've heard from people that maybe they don't invest in, like $200, $300 to go to these events? And what have been the biggest stories that you have heard from people that invested in coming to your event? And they're like, I would invest these $200-$300 on the ticket 10 times over.
Oh, I've had women that are like, I don't care how much it is, next year I will be there.
Same.
It just boils down to thinking about what would you want out of an event. If I were to come to an event, what do I expect? Like I spent $1,000 on a podcast summit in LA where there was no food, no decorations, just the speaker on the stage giving me podcast knowledge. And it was for 2 days. So essentially 2 days. So $500 a day, right? That's what, and it was 6 hours long. There were breaks for me to leave to go get my own lunch. And I look at myself and I'm like, okay, I'm willing to pay $1,000 for knowledge from somebody. So why am I so uncomfortable charging $250 for a 2-day event that's not only knowledge, but food and the experience and the community.
Yeah.
And that's not answering the actual question.
I actually does, because for me, so we actually, our event is like 444, and we're right now like completely like self-funded, right? So we need to sell tickets to do the event. And again, breakfast, speakers, breath work, meditation, like swag bag galore, Instagram photos galore, all the things, right? But one of the things that I had to tell myself is I actually spend so much money going to other events because of the relationships that I got out of there, the collaborations that I have, the quality people is in those rooms.
Oh, absolutely. The partnership that I had from like a big, like the Fox Theater that's here, or tickets, or like stadiums and stuff, are all from connections that I've made outside of my events. And I think that a lot of people who aren't comfortable paying the prices are people obviously who haven't been to like events that have put on a good experience for them. But I know personally, I've like made the best connections from being in rooms that I've invested myself in, and first-handedly, not just for my event, but a perfect example. I had a girl that came to empowHER the second year alone. She came by herself. She was really scared. She wasn't even from here. She was from Illinois, and she came here knowing nobody. She left knowing some friends. She messaged me 6 months later and said that she met her now business partner from empowHER, and they launched.
That it's a fucking win.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, if you walk into a room and you don't talk to anybody and you sit at the table and you cross your arms, you take a couple notes, you might ask someone to snap a picture. You might even ask somebody to snap a picture. You might take a selfie because you're too scared to ask somebody to take a picture for you, and you leave. No shit, the event wasn't going to be fun or eventful for you.
Yeah.
It is also an investment for you to get out of the room knowingly that everyone that's here is also putting an investment in themselves to meet more people. And so I think it's like, how much are you willing to pay to be in the room with these powerful people that are in the room? And all I'm doing is showing the experiences previous years of how we're getting bigger and having bigger partners and more people involved. And that's for a reason. Like, more people want to be a part of this, not because someone was like, wow, that was so shitty, you should be a part of it. They were like, it was amazing, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger. So people making the investment, that's why it's called an investment. It's not a loss, it's not a fee, it's an investment. It's, you're investing in something that is potentially going to catapult you. I had to have this uncomfortable conversation with a lot of my speakers last year, is that you can have the best event in the world. And I had to come to the conclusion that it is my job to have this platform for all of these vendors. It is up to them to sell their products and really put themselves out there. Like, I can't give you an event and with 1,000 people and then guarantee you 1,000 sales. Like, that's on you.
Yeah.
So same thing with the attendees. Like, you are paying for the platform to go to because you're understanding the mindset of the women that are coming to this event, right? So
yeah, and we're the ones that we are providing the experience and the space and the I always say, like, the way we do it, and I know you do this too, is we are just providing the conduit.
Yeah. Exactly. And I think a lot of women are scared because sometimes, to us, we're like, oh my God, 444, that's a great deal for a 2-day event, or even a
Oh, yeah.
I've spent way more on that. But like, I get for the women who are just starting out or like never been to an event, they're like $400. That's like a whole paycheck for some people.
You know what? It's crazy though. I had somebody reach out on the DM, somebody I know, and she pivoted her business and she was like, hey, do you know of any free networking events? And she does social media management. That's kind of like what she pivoted in. And I was like, hey, can I tell you something from the bottom of my heart? How much are your packages? And she said, well, my cheapest package is, I think it was like $600. This was a while ago. And I was like, the person that is willing to pay $600 for social media management is not at a free networking event. So I actually do not know of any free networking events because I don't go to them, but you should consider joining either a networking organization or an actually paid event, because the women that you are trying to meet, they're there.
That's a perfect example. Yeah, because you can go for free events and God bless if you find one like.
I mean, you're going to make a lot of friends.
Yeah,
they're all broke. They're fucking broke.
You're going to make surface level connections is what you're going to make. When you're investing in yourself, you're understanding that everyone that else is in this room also invested to be here. So they are ready to strap their boots up and make some shit happen.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, we could lower it to $50. Well, now we've got women who are at the $50 mindset, or some women who aren't and are like, wow, fuck yeah, $50. But like, when I invest in bigger events, I go in there ready and I'm more invested because I want to connect more.
Oh,
I want my
and
money.
I need an ROI. When I go to an event, I need an ROI. And
Yeah.
for me, ROI is how many connections am I making? Literally, a lot of what I do when I go to events, I'm like, okay, podcasts that I can be in, other stages that I can get on, and then ultimately, actually, possible clients. Because usually they are at my same level, they invested at the same level. So now what we are doing is we're cross promoting or we are crossing our audiences, and that costs money.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Oh my
having
God, I have one more question for you, and I fucking love this. This conversation is amazing. Okay, I'm sure that a lot of girls in your event, they're like, oh, now I want to host my own event. So, what would you tell that girlie that is like, oh my God, I would love to do this too? What is their first step from Demi, like from your lens?
Okay, this is perfect because I just had a coaching call with one of my clients yesterday about this, and she's like, "I'm inspired by Empower, and I want to have my conference not in April because that's when I was." She's like, "February. I don't want to compete." I'm like, "We need more of these things." But the
We need
first thing that I
more. Yeah.
tell her to do is to really understand why you are making a conference. What is your conference about? It can be an array of things. It can be wellness, mental health, financial, business. It could be all things, but why are you having it? Because anyone can put on a conference. Anyone can say, I'm going to have a wellness retreat or I'm going to have an empowerment conference. I've seen a lot of girls do certain conferences, but when they don't understand their why, and everyone's going to have a why because there's some type of fire that's lit under your ass for you to want to do it, but like really leaning into what is your why? Because anytime that you start feeling down or you're taking in these vendors or you're taking in clients or you're hearing bad backlash, you have this like,
Yeah, or tickets are not selling and you need to pivot. Guys, I'm going to say this. There's moments where nothing is happening. And I don't know if this is your reality too, but everybody buys their ticket at the last fucking minute.
oh, yeah, we'll go a month without selling a ticket. And I'm like, why did I do this? This is not going to go good. Then I'm like, I get a sale, and I'm like, okay, I'm back.
Yeah. Yeah, same. So I kind of want to put that out there because I think that it's so important for people. Like, if you're actually listening to this, and we're going to give you all the info for Empower Her, but get your fucking ticket early.
It helps us also plan, but like I get it. Like some people are last minute plans or just finding out about it. But yeah, knowing your why, and I know again, I'll keep saying cliche and fluffy, but I think it does help because I could sit here and be like, okay, your first step is to write down everything that you want to have at the event and the venue and this and that. But when you're doing it, you kind of lose sight of like, why are you doing this? I wanted an event that made women feel beautiful, and I won't bore anyone with my backstory, but like there's a reason why I want women to feel beautiful because at some point in my life, I didn't feel that way. And I never wanted to feel that way again. So when I step into any role that I do with Empower, I'm stepping into it with meaning because I know exactly why I'm doing this conference.
And you know exactly how she feels.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know how that woman feels. I know what she wants to feel like. I know the life she envisions. I know what she's not telling her friends. I know what she's not telling herself. I know it. And so for me, with an empowerment conference, it might be you for whoever's listening to a wellness conference or a yoga conference or a summit or whatever it is that you're looking for, right? Why are you doing it? What makes it different than other people's? It's you. And obviously, Ati could talk about that all day long of being you and you're your own brand. But like, there's a reason why you want to have a conference because there's this specific like soul to it, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that I think is the first part. And then if you're like, I already got that down, then you start doing the logistics of it. The venue, how many people? Do you want food? What kind of food? What time? How many people can come? What kind of vendors do you want? What speakers do you like? It goes from there. But I think
I'm going to say
first thing.
the only thing I had was the why.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, okay, let's try this out.
Yeah. But you know what? When you know your why and you start pitching to vendors or speakers or venues or anything, they're more than likely going to work with you than not. Because if you go into a place, you're like, I want to have a conference. And they're like, what kind of conference? You're like, I don't know. I just want like a wellness thing. I think it'd be really fun for girls. Versus like, I want a wellness conference because I went through a really dark time in my life and
And I know that it's other women going through the same shit.
Yeah, they're going to be like, wow, yeah, I want to get back behind that versus like, okay, someone else is already doing that. So it is your superpower of knowing what it is and why you're wanting to do this conference. And I tell girls, I'm like, why do you want to do, and I ask it so nonchalantly every time. I'm like, oh, so why do you want to do, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And like, I ask it very loaded and they don't realize it. And they're like, I don't know, I just think it'd be fun. I'm like, wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like,
yeah, you're not going to follow through. You're going to want to kill yourself.
Yeah, and then once I did this with her, she was like, "Well, I want to do a conference that's an empowerment conference because I'm really tired of, putting myself out there for all these other conferences and being told no, or like I want to be a speaker. So like if I can't
Yeah,
make it,
you like that was actually, it's funny that she said that. For me, it was like, I want to build my own fucking table.
I get it. That's me. I was reaching out to people on podcasts and other people's conferences, and I was either getting ignored or, oh, sorry, we're full. Maybe next year. And I was like, fuck this. Like I want
Yeah,
to make my own,
yeah.
and
I created my own fucking table.
nothing against those other people because now we understand we can't have
But
everybody.
also, yes, yes. And the moment you create your own table, and this is such a learning thing for everybody, the moment you create your own table is the moment you're coming from you create your own thing, and actually you become sought after.
Yeah. Yep. So that would be the first thing to start with. And if someone's like, this sounds stupid, I encourage somebody just to sit down at a table and I'm old school. I have like 6 planners and then I have to write everything hand down. I have to see it. And then I virtually put it in the digital stuff because that's just how I am. So I have my girls mind map, like old school, like bubble map, like
Me too.
memories in the center. And then I'm like, why? What do I want to do? Okay, I want women to feel beautiful. I want women businesses to be.
That's how we actually create experiences. Just like how we are defining, I have a huge whiteboard, and that's kind of, I'm like, this is what I want to create. And then we start breaking down, and that's how I bring in the experiences.
Yep. So I wish I could
Fucking
say,
love it.
oh yeah, reach out to venues and leverage and all these things, and those are huge parts of it. But you're not going to get anywhere if you don't really understand truly why you're doing a conference or an event.
Yeah.
If you really don't.
Okay, give me all the details, all of it. Where people can find you, when is the event, where, all the things. Because, bitches, I am coming. I'm one of the speakers. But on top of that, I am so excited to be a part of what you're creating. I usually don't speak at events that they're not just business oriented, but I love what you're doing, and I can't wait to be a part of it.
Yeah, so it's in Michigan, obviously in Detroit. It's on April 12th and 13th. It's a 2-day event. However, there are options to come to just the one day, which is the 13th to Sunday is the conference.
No. Everybody's coming to the 2 days.
Everybody's got to come, but I understand. We have the slumber party, which is the VIP experience. And it's honestly like my favorite part because I try to explain it to people. Like, have you ever been on a bachelorette party with some girls that you may not know? Like, you're there for the bride, but you're meeting her work friends.
Yeah, by the time you leave, they're your best friend.
You see my wedding and you're like, remember those shots we did in Cabo? That's the slumber party. So the slumber party is the bachelorette party and the conference is the wedding. So it's this beautiful, like, it's PJ themed. We've got a DJ, we dance, there's pizza with gluten-free options. And so yeah, it's a 2-day, April 12th and 13th. And we have a hotel partner where there's so much fun, like
I
things.
can't freaking
I know, and
wait.
Ati's gonna be a speaker. The minute we met, I was like, I need you to apply.
Yes.
Yes.
I
Amazing.
love it. I'm so excited about the topic, and also talking about personal branding from the lens of no matter what it is that you do, you leave a legacy. And I think it's not just for business owners, but for women stepping into their power. I think they're going to be blown away.
Oh, absolutely. And even though you were like, I usually don't talk about things that aren't business related.
Well, I always speak at business related.
100%, but you will be surprised at how many women are going to be at this event that are not business owners and become inspired by hearing women who are doing the thing.
That's already happened to me.
I want to do that. Like, I want to stay in corporate, but I want to start my side gig of like making cookies or doing this and like just seeing something that they're passionate about being lit up because somebody like kind of like plugged wires together in their brain is like the best compliment I can get from my event. So I'm sure
that
it's going to inspire hundreds of women and it's going to be so much fun. But
I love it. Well, where they can find you, what is the website for the event? I mean, I'm sure this is all on Instagram. We're going to put everything in the show notes, but say it out loud anyway for my lazy people.
Yeah, so the best way I always try to do is just connecting with me. My is Demiree Suan, and I'm sure no one can spell that. So that will be in the show notes. And then under that, my website is demireesuan.com, and that's got empowHER stuff. And from there's empowHER's website, but that's just like my hub where for me to not be like empowHER.org.
Yeah. Love it. Thank you so much. This was amazing. Thank you for tuning in to the Be Your Brand podcast. When it comes to building a personal brand, no one size fits all. Our mindset is key, and there is a million things to learn. from social media, making videos, and tech to storytelling and writing. So if you found this episode valuable, we would love for you to leave a review and share it. Share on your socials, your stories, and send the link to your friends so more women can build million-dollar brands by being more of who they already are. Not sure where to start on your personal brand journey? Take our profitable personal brand quiz. This quiz was created with a service-based entrepreneur in mind. It will tell you where you are at and even give you a next step for massive action. Go take the quiz and power charge your personal brand at attigreenspan.com/quiz. That is www.attigreenspan.com/quiz. You can also find the link in the show on the notes.